welcome to another video in my portfolio review series. This is a series where you send in your portfolios to me, and just as the name suggests, I review them on camera, giving you feedback based on what you're hoping for, what your goals are next in your design career. I love doing this series because I think it's really good for us as designers to look around at other people's portfolios and see how they're presenting their work. And I think it's really useful to get an outsider's opinion on your portfolio as well, because obviously it's your work, you're very close to it. So hopefully I can help out not only the designers that I'm going to be reviewing portfolios of today, but you watching. Maybe there's some advice you can take away and apply to your own portfolio. I've got 3 portfolios to go through and review today, and this episode is sponsored by Webflow. They're a website building tool which is great for building portfolios, and they're actually what I'm using to build out my own portfolio at the moment. I'll tell you more about why later on, but for now, let's get into reviewing these portfolios. First up today, we've got Marina. Marina is from Seattle, and she has been a freelance web designer and WordPress developer for the last few years. She says that she's self-taught, which I think is pretty cool, and that her next step is looking to shift from doing freelancing full-time to working in like a more consistent role, either as a contractor or a permanent employee. She says that she'd prefer to work for a mission-based company, especially one that uses WordPress, because that's where her skills are, fair enough, and that she would love something that can give her a bit of variety. So let's take a look at Marina's portfolio. So here is a look at Marina's website. And right from the very start, I knew I was going to love her site because this header is just beautiful, what she's created here with all these overlapping boxes. There's a little get in touch button there. It has a nice animation on it, the photo. I think she's created a lot of depth with this design, which I think is, yeah, beautiful. And I love how she's applied this not only to the header space, but also to other components of her site. So here in the portfolio section, we've got, again, some subtle movement and some overlapping going on. It creates a really nice aesthetic, and I really think it's a good demonstration of her skills as a web designer. I'm also a huge fan of Marina's use of typography in her portfolio. So for her, well, like logo, I guess we'll call it, the way her name is written up the top, she's got this very geometric sans serif font, but she's paired it with this serif font, and she's used it like here quite large and italic, within a smaller like body copy underneath. I think she's done some really nice font pairing here, and that the way she uses the typography on the page is very thoughtful and obviously shows that she's got a lot of skill in that area. And I note those 2 things off the top because even though your design portfolio is meant to be a place to house like all of the work that you've done on other projects, the portfolio itself can actually be a really good example of your design skills if you put a lot of effort into it. And I think Marina's is a great example of doing just that. So on this homepage here, we've got a header that introduces her. We've got a testimonial quote, which I think is a really nice touch to have up the very top. And something that I loved about this quote, not only is it, you know, a good, nice, short and sweet quote from a client, but you can click on this Lazarus Naturals right here, and it goes to the project that they worked on together, which I think is great. It gives more credibility to that testimonial quote. It means that we can dig in deeper and see what this project was like and what they worked on together. Anyway, back to the homepage for now. So we've got the testimonial quote, then we have this portfolio section where she's got 6 projects. She's also laid out her resume here on the page, which I think is a nice touch. Often you'll want to have your resume available for download, but I think just having it right here, especially if you're looking for a job like either, as she said, as a full-time employee or as a contractor, then the resume is going to be something that they're going to want to see, so make it easy for them. I don't know about this top skills section. For development, for like coding, then showing what languages you use is really important to know what you're like proficient in. I don't think the tools you use to create your designs really matters, and honestly, it's easy enough to learn anything that you need to. For example, if Marina was to apply at an agency where they mostly used Figma for design, she would be able to pick that up really easily. So I just don't think it's necessary to show the icons of the design tools that you use in your portfolio. Continuing down here, we've got a place where we can download Marina's resume, and then we're ending on another testimonial quote, which is, again, a really nice touch. And then we have her contact form. So this is a great homepage from Marina. A lot of times with portfolios, we see just a block of projects, and you have to dig deeper for all this other information like the contact form and the resume and some more information about the designer themselves. So Marina's put that all on her homepage, so I can just scroll through it, which I like. Let's jump in and take a look at some of Marina's projects. Important thing to realize is that the first project in your portfolio is probably going to be the one that people click on first, unless something else in particular catches their eye. So always make sure that that is your favorite one, that if they only looked at one, that's what you'd be alright with them seeing. So on Marina's project pages, she has an image up the top here, again using this overlapping style that she's used on the homepage. I like this here, this project details, a little summary of what went on. So when we're looking at each project, we're seeing a bit of information about it. And I love the way that Marina's done these persona cards. It's, again, another chance for her to showcase her graphic design and layout skills. So she could have just written all this in a block of text in a paragraph on the page, but this is obviously much more visually pleasing and nice to look at. And again, a good demonstration of her skills. Marina does a great job of showing her process in her projects. So she's got the sitemap here, then moving down to the wireframes and visual identity system. I feel like we can really get a sense of her process by looking through these and by reading these little blocks of text here too. And then she's got the final website. I felt like in this North Atlantic Books one, this section here about improving the book categorization, that's a hard word to say. This just looked overwhelming to me, to be honest. And in the caption, it seems like this was what you did to improve an organization structure they had before. But honestly, unless what you're applying for is some sort of role where that would be a main skill, I don't know if that's highly necessary to show. I know this must have been a big project and must have had a lot of work gone into the categorizing of all of this, but I just think it falls flat in your portfolio, and I think that this project as a whole would be stronger without it, because I found this bit a little bit confusing. It does say in the project details, and again when you're reading a bit of this case study as well, that Marina was involved with more of the copy editing side and content creation. So that's great, but I think that in your portfolio you really want to play up the details of the project that are what you want to do moving forward, right? So like I said, if information architecture and copy and content is something that you really want to be doing in your job, great, keep them in. But if not, then I would recommend cutting those out so that we can have more of a focus on the design process, which is what it seems from your email that you're more interested in focusing on. At the very end of this project as well, there's this little bit here that says that the optimization work and the web redesign that she did played a key role in doubling the monthly site revenue, which is huge. And I want you to make a bigger deal of this, Marina. If you have results from your projects that you can share, because I know sometimes not every client or company wants to share those with you, but if you get something and you can say, hey, work I did had this huge impact, then you should make a big deal of it. I think this could have been mentioned perhaps in the project detail section, have a little thing about results, maybe with a little graph of what happened and what your impact was, because that shows that you care about those results and the bottom line, essentially, not just making things look nice, obviously. So that's great. Well done, Marina, and just shout about that some more, I guess. All in all, I think Marina's done a great job with her portfolio, because not only does she show her process here in talking about the projects, but she's also put a lot of work and personality into the design of the portfolio itself. So it's going to make her stand apart from a portfolio that is more just like a grid of projects. Next up we have Kevin. Kevin is from LA and has been designing since 2012. Says he does branding design, graduated from university in 2017, so a recent grad, that's awesome, and is looking to work in either in-house or a studio or an agency. So not too picky, which is good when you've just graduated. Let's take a look at Kevin's portfolio. So Kevin's portfolio is one of these ones that is just a grid of projects, and that's okay, that's what mine used to be as well. But I do think that if you compare it to Marina's and the personality that we can see just in this header space here and, the design consideration as well, it does stand out a lot more. So that's something that I would advise you to do, Kevin, is put some more design thought into your homepage in particular. Having a grid like this for a portfolio page is absolutely fine. But yeah, I think you can make a better impression and a bigger splash when visitors first arrive on your site. It is good that even though you don't have an about paragraph or anything, you do say graphic designer under your name here. You'd be surprised at how many people don't say that, and then I'm left wondering what I'm supposed to be judging. Kevin's site's made up of a couple of pages. We've got this homepage here, which is his portfolio grid. We've got an about page. We've got this connect page, which is a contact form. And I was a little confused by this section here called other work. Felt like these were projects that perhaps you thought weren't worthy of a whole block in your portfolio. And if that's the case, then I would advise you to not include this work at all. Just completely remove this page. I know you want to show more work, especially when you're just starting out. You said you just graduated last year. It does feel often like it's quantity over quality sometimes. You just want to show you've done a lot of stuff. But I think that your portfolio is only as good as your weakest piece. And if these pieces are not strong enough to warrant being a project in your portfolio, then they don't warrant being on there at all. Let's take a look at Kevin's first project here. So it's for roundabout ice cream sandwiches. I do like that in his introduction to the project, he's got the results up the top. That's what I was talking about in Marinas. She had the results down the bottom. It's great to have the result right up here at the top of the page. Created a fun environment for anyone to come in. I would be interested to see if that was like a client response or something as well. That would be good to include. I can tell from his portfolio that Kevin has a real talent for mock-ups. Like this looks great here, this signage. I wondered if it was real to start with. So Kevin has tried to show a bit of his process in this project. See here it's his logo process. But what I want to see here, Kevin, is what the final one was and perhaps some of the reasons why these ones were decided against. So I can tell from the top, I assume anyway, that this is the final logo, but we don't actually see that here in the logo process. Kevin's put a lot of effort into his like product photography, which is great. This image here in particular is really nice, and I think it actually serves the project better than the storefront image you've chosen to put as the project like thumbnail. I think that if you put the one of all the packaging here, you'd be able to see the logo that you designed clearer, and it would be a stronger representation of the project. So the next project in Kevin's portfolio I saw was this one here for Best Buy. And that confused me a little because I'm pretty sure this is not the Best Buy logo, unless it's like a different electronics store with the same name. That made me realize that I'm not sure if all of the work in this portfolio is real world projects or if they were student briefs or like practice briefs. It's totally fine for your portfolio to be practice briefs and for that to be what you have, because when you just start starting out, it's really hard to get that experience, and so you've kind of got to have that stuff. But I think you should make it clear when it is that. And I would advise against putting in redesigns of huge companies that everyone knows about. I think in this case, what would have been better for Kevin to do is if he wanted to design a logo for an electronics store, to come up with his own like name and make the brand from there. Because even though it's not a bad thing to have practice briefs in your portfolio, when you put in a redesign of a prominent brand, it really highlights that it wasn't real and that this wasn't a proper like design process with a client going through and giving you feedback. Something I've noticed that Kevin does throughout his portfolio is when he designs a brand, he shows it to you in a huge variety of situations, which is great because it's good to be thinking about how your logo will look on, you know, like here we've got a letterhead, a business card, a brochure, packaging, a t-shirt. But what I would recommend for you, Kevin, is to actually go deep and not wide with your designs. So rather than having a large amount of mock-ups and things in your portfolio, spend that extra time on refining the design instead. With this logo, for example, it could have really benefited from some custom typography. So even if you only had the logo and you didn't have it in all these mock-ups, because the logo itself would be better quality, the project would better serve you in your portfolio. All right, next up we have Ashley. Ashley is another recent grad looking to gain some more freelance clients and hopefully land a role as a junior graphic designer in a small to medium-sized design firm. Cool. So let's take a look at Ashley's portfolio with that in mind. So we start off with this sentence that like describes her and immediately injects a bit of personality to it, like I was talking about. And then under that we go into our grid of projects. Then we've got an about page, a heading. Oh, that's cute. There's a GIF instead of just a static profile photo. That's a nice touch. A bit more about Ashley. And then a resume as well. Do you see what I mean about personality, and that looking at Ashley's site and also Marina's site, the first one we showed, I feel like I can get a sense of who they are as people, not just as designers, more so than I can with Kevin's. I know we want to be professional, and that's great, but at the end of the day, people who are hiring you, whether it's a client or whether it's someone who's hiring for a design team, they're going to be having to work with you as a person, so don't be afraid of showing a bit of your personality. Let's have a look at some of Ashley's work. So all of Ashley's projects start out with this like full page screen with a paragraph about it. And I kind of like this because it means I'm almost forced to read it before I scroll on and just get distracted by the pictures. So I like that. And then the rest of Ashley's portfolio seems to mostly be made up of images. Oh no, I'm wrong. There's a little bit of text here and there in between. I think your portfolio actually could benefit from maybe some more structure to the way that you organize the project part itself. Showing like what the intention was, what the deliverables were, that sort of thing. I think that could be a good addition to make. I also feel like I want to see a lot more of the process behind each of your projects, actually. Like in this one here, you've got a picture of a sketchbook, which is great, but I feel like this doesn't really tell me much about your process, other than the fact that you did do a sketch this one time. So walking through like the journey you went on to create this design, any big decisions you had to make, like any turning points for it, like when you decided that it would be wood, for example, with this burnout? Did you try other materials first? I don't know. That could be really interesting to show. Just like with Kevin's portfolio, I find myself not being totally sure which of these projects are real world clients and which were your student work. This one here seems like it might be a real world project. It's a really nice logo. I would say to watch your images because you've got this theme that puts the images full width. This one's looking a little bit pixelated on my Retina screen, and if it's a designer who's hiring you, they're probably going to be looking at your portfolio on a Retina screen, so you just want your images to like look their best, you know. This one here in Ashley's portfolio I'm pretty sure is a real world project. It would be nice to see here a testimonial. You talk about designing a template so that they could then like use it to lay out the brochures themselves. So perhaps a testimonial from someone on the team talking about how easy it was to use, or perhaps zooming in on some of the details and explaining how you set up the file to make it easy for them to use, or like what design decisions you made, for this ease of use idea. That would have been really good to see. Just a bit more of the process and your thinking behind it, because while I do want to see that you have typography skills and that you have layout skills, the design skills needed, I also want to see that you're thinking like a designer as well and that you've got like a clear process that you follow. I think for being a recent grad, Ashley, you've done a great job of selecting which projects to put in your portfolio. You've gone for a nice range, which is going to be important for an agency. And when you're just starting out, especially, showing a range is good. You'll want to specialize like later on in your career. But yeah, you've done a good job of picking a good range of projects and the ones that are your favorite, I assume, as well. I hope that even if you're not one of the people whose portfolios I picked to review today, you got some value out of hearing my feedback. Main things to watch out for really are showing your personality and making sure that within your projects, you're giving enough detail about the results, about the process, about what the client wanted, what the brief was. I know that as a designer, it can be really frustrating sometimes working on your portfolio because you've got all these ideas and this vision for it, and you know what it needs to do, but you can't actually like bring it to life and make it happen very easily. And that's why I'm really excited to have Webflow as a sponsor for this video, because they are a visual code tool. So they're perfect for helping designers like bring an idea to life without having code knowledge. If you use Webflow for your portfolio, you can do a lot of custom stuff without actually having to know how to code. So if that's been something that's frustrating you about your own portfolio and you're watching this, hearing me talk about personality and feeling that you need to make some changes, then I would highly recommend you check Webflow out. What I'm doing for my portfolio is making use of their CMS collections feature. I'll have a collection of projects, and you can have whatever fields and categories you want as part of each of the things within your CMS collection. So whether that's like the scope of work, the results, a good case study, a bit about your process, whatever you want to have in there, you can set up through the CMS in Webflow. It means that it's super customizable and you can present whatever information that you want to about your design projects, and that also it's really easy to add to as well. So you only have to set this up once, and then when you want to add a project to your portfolio, you just have to come in and basically fill out the fields. So if you want to give Webflow a try for your portfolio, you can do that for free. There'll be a link in the description, and it's also on screen right now. And something I'll recommend is that you go and watch some of their Webflow University videos. It's like a series of free training, and I watched a lot of them when I was getting started with it, and it really helped. So dive in, try it out, and I'd love to take a look at whatever you come up with. And I hope that some of the tips that I gave in this video can be helpful as well when you're building your portfolio. All right. Thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and if you want to see more in this series, and I will see you in the next video.